or the end of 77. And I want to focus on a few points of the Sikha. I think that the lessons the Rebbe learns from Pirkei Avos are quite interesting. What's interesting, first of all, is that the Rebbe over here talks about the machlokes if we should learn Pirkei Avos and Tisha B'Av Shchalias B'Shabbos. It looks like the Mishnah Achrona, the final opinion the Rebbe shared, so throughout the years there was various perspectives, is that we didn't say it, but nevertheless the Rebbe says, "V'bald as a chag lev'chol yom sheyavai." So we wait with an incredible tshuka that l'chol days will be able to say Pirkei Avos. And then the Rebbe learned in Ois Zayin the haloi meter yeled l'mahu daimel l'dyok suval nir chadash, that when you learn Torah as a young child, it's like a clean parchment, and it's an old parchment, and there's the common sense question that's asked every single year when we sit around the table in shul and we learn the Pirkei Avos. Someone says, Nebuch, what did I do wrong that I only started learning Torah older? And why the guilt trip? Why focusing on the guilt? And what does the Rebbe say? The beard in them is a loimet Torah yaled, that you're supposed to learn Torah with the kadnus, with the bittul of a yaled. And then Torah is digested in you. But when Torah is only with chachma, zakin says shekana chachma, then you don't have the bittul, Torah is not digested. Now, the idea of Torah with bittul is, as the Rebbe explains so well, so in depth in the Sikh, is a paradox. Because if you've ever been in a yeshiva, Torah is very much about me understanding what I'm saying. And Chaver will start getting passionate about the Rashba meant that, the Rashba didn't mean that, etc. And it's such a fine line between that and defending your opinion because it's your opinion, rather than defending it because it's Torah's emes. It's a very, very fine line. Because ultimately a person can scream and shout because they don't want to be wrong. But in Torah, how do you know that that's not acceptable? Because it's not about being right or being wrong. It's about getting to the maskana. It's getting about divrei elikim chayim. It's like the Rebbe says over here. V'bald as afilu nachim psak halacha, even after the halacha, the second daya is an inyan of Torah. So then there's no nefoil, he's not falling, and it's no oivcha. And when you do feel oivcha, and you feel this didan natzach, you won over, then you didn't accomplish anything. Torah didn't work on you. And that's why you have to be shmuel lakatan. And I was thinking to myself, like, you can imagine the Rebbe in Yeshiva B'chlal. It's interesting that, as far as we know, the Rebbe didn't spend time, at least substantial time, in an official yeshiva. He learned with his father. Just like trying to imagine the Rebbe was the biggest gadol b'Yisrael and the biggest, screaming at somebody in yeshiva. It's just like, you can't think about it. The Rebbe wanted Vitcha Deraisa. The Rebbe wanted people to get passionate about learning, but somehow, I don't know, I'm trying to get my head around. And we see many videos where the Rebbe talks and people in learning, the chief rabbis come to the Rebbe and the Rebbe talks in learning. The Rebbe gets passionate, but not the screaming. It's not about being right. It's about learning. And there's no question that we can all digest that. We can all take that in a bit. That it's not about being right. We don't learn to be right. There's no oyev. And I'll say more than that, if I may. Yesterday was my Yom Haledes, so I'm entitled to farbeng a little bit. If it's not only about Torah, it's even about a different derech in Yiddishkeit. You see different people doing things different way. And yes, we're Chassidim, and we're very proud of our derech. And we don't apologize, and we don't have to walk around, sit there saying, it's my truth, it's not my truth. This is what we do. But at the same time, to have a respect for somebody else's Torah. And to have respect for each Nara Pashte that I've encouraged, each river with its own flow, with its own way of working, to respect other Yidden, to respect each and every person. Their right is not a threat to my right. And the Rebbe, we saw many times when one of the tzaddikim was nostalgic, the Rebbe would encourage their children to continue the sheshelas, to continue the chain. He didn't say, come on, move them all into Chabad. Obviously, we want everyone to learn Chassidus, but a respect for Torah, Divrei Elikim Chaim, I believe, is one of the lessons we can learn from the Sikha.